I hope everybody's doing fantastic. Right now, as you can see, I'm traveling. I'm not at home. I'm not in my regular studio, so that's why you see a different background, different lighting, different etc. Please be forgiving. My computer today is not plugged directly with a cable into the internet outlet on the wall, and so I'm just connected via Wi-Fi. It seems to be a good signal, so I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be okay. But if there were to be any glitches, I just want you to know that I'm not at home, and that's why you would see something appear or it sound different. I'm excited to be here as every Tuesday. I like to join these conversations. I'm Eduardo. Finance managers hire me because they're frustrated that they're not growing like they could, that they're not making the kind of money that they deserve. They've been growing well. All of a sudden, they feel stuck. They feel like their careers have stalled. So I help them stand out from the competition and be earmarked for more and faster promotions so that over their lifetime, they're going to make a significantly different, better income. If that sounds like you, get in touch with me, leave me a comment, and we can get into a conversation. I'm sure that there's a lot that we can do for your career. With that, welcome. Happy Tuesday. And I'm going to launch into the questions. And I'm going to do something that I don't usually do, which is share a thought just to get the week started, or the 7-day period before our next call started. And it's a thought by Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Let that sink in. So the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts means, to me, that you have to be deliberate about things. Don't just float along in the current and you just be taken wherever that goes. Be intentional, be deliberate about how you live your life, how you choose to do things. Be aware and conscious, make your choices, pay the price, know that whatever happens as a result of your choice, you own that because it was your choice. Nobody forced you. So be intentional, be deliberate, own whatever you do. And I think, at least in my case, that's a good recipe for happiness. And so I hope that you enjoy this and that you take it to heart. And let's start with the questions. I think I'll be able to do 5 questions, but let's go and see what happens. I run out of time or I run out of questions. Let's see what happens before. First question, how do I handle my boss setting impossible standards and accusing me of not being committed enough or no matter how hard I work? Well, my friend, I hear you. I feel you. I've had bosses like this. And that's if you read Amy Gallo, and if you don't, then you should. So go and get a book by her that's called Getting Along. Fantastic book, really illustrative of many difficult situations that crop up in the workplace, and that really gives you a good guide of where to or how to address the different issues. Anyway, she talks in there about a type of person that's called the tormentor. Particularly, I think this is a kind of boss that's a tormentor. And the tormentor is just what the name or the nickname indicates. It's somebody who's just who seems to be hell-bent on making your life difficult for whatever reason. Nothing you do is good enough. It's always like you have to be paying some price. My advice before you do anything else is try to understand what might be motivating them. Was it that going up to where they sit today, they had to go through a lot of hardship? Many people like this are not driven by evil. I always believe that people are normally not motivated by that. People are good. We just are not perfect. And sometimes we end up doing things that probably don't work out the way we hope they would. And sometimes this happens with the tormentors. These are people who might have faced a lot of obstacles, who went through a lot of hardship to get to where they are. And they might be trying to sort of have you also pay the price. Because why would you get, off easier than they did? That could be a possibility. It could be that they feel threatened. It could be that they're going through some difficult period in their life. Or it could just be that they're that way. Because I've seen everything, believe me, and I've seen a little bit of everything that I'm telling you right now. So once you understand and you ascertain whether it's the person, your boss, or yourself, or a combination, try to get a good sense of that. Then the first thing I'm going to advise you do is get a support group. Talk to your peers, talk to friends. Hopefully you have a group of friends at work that you can rely on and you can vent with or talk and ask questions about how to handle. Vent is the wrong word. And in fact, the one thing that I will underline, double lines and bold and big old font, is do not gripe. So get a support group, talk to colleagues, talk to somebody you trust, but do not gripe. I'm a big believer of if you have nothing good to say or nothing nice to say about somebody or about something, then don't say anything. So don't go bad mouthing your boss. Don't go complaining, griping, and being miserable, because nobody has time for that. Our lives are difficult enough as it is for, without somebody running around and wailing how tough their lives are. So don't do that. Get a support group. Make sure that you're not antagonizing your boss. Maybe he or she is doing that because at some point you might have been antagonistic to some position and now they're being defensive. Like I said a little while ago, maybe they're just being defensive. So make sure that they understand that you're on the same side. Use some line that sounds something like, hey, for our project together, our objective together is, and therefore, this is what I want to do, or this is what I suggest we do, or this is what I suggest we stop doing. So make it sound like it's something that you are doing together with the other person so that they don't feel isolated. And that'll put you on the same boat, on the same side, and that'll allow you to hopefully get them to go along with you more. Don't threaten them. Maybe in your process of getting insight into what drives their behavior, maybe they're an insecure person. So you want to be able to discern whether that's the case. And if so, then, try to mitigate whatever might be threatening to them. It won't always be successful, but at least try to be aware of that so that you can try to make it easier on them, or try to modulate whatever is threatening them. The other is make yourself indispensable. So do your job so well, prepare so thoroughly that over time, so as you do a mix of everything that we've been saying, so you will be understanding what drives them. You will be making sure that they know that you both are in the same boat. You will try to not threaten or turn off or turn down whatever might be threatening the person. You also need to make sure that in doing so, you become more and more indispensable to them. You become helpful. Try to understand how you could be of help to them, regardless of how bad of a tormentor they might be. Because over time, if all of a sudden they realize that they depend on you more than they realized, they might switch towards working with you and asking for your help and not giving you as much of a hard time. And ultimately, the bottom line is, if nothing works and if the person's still, being painful, you got to do some thinking, right? So do some introspection and decide what you want to do. I've had bosses that were like that, like really difficult people to work with. Some were nasty. Another one was overly nice in a passive aggressive way, like trying to please everybody. And both were tormentors, for example, in these two cases. And I made my choice to just go on. And so you got to do the same. You have to understand what's going on, if they're going to change or not. And if they're not, then make your own mind up as to whether you're just going to power through and make the best out of that situation. Life gives you lemons. Maybe you want to make a lemonade. Or maybe you just realize this is doing more harm than good, and you might want to make a change. So you can change departments, you can change companies, make up your mind. And like I said before, when I gave you the quote from Marcus Aurelius, if you are aware and conscious and deliberate, then it'll lead to better outcomes. So you might choose to not stay. So I'm sorry to hear you're in this situation. It's never easy. There's never a perfect solution. And people who are like this normally won't magically change. There will always be something of abrasiveness in in their demeanor, in how they treat people, in how they work, and how they show up. Show up as a positive, mature, resilient person, and try some of the tactics that I suggested. So I hope that was helpful. Let's go to the next one. Okay, how should I deal with a team member who constantly contradicts me and others? Well, there always seems to be somebody like that, no, my friend. So the first thing I would advise, as always, again, try to understand what might be motivating that behavior. For some people, it could be they just want to be acknowledged. And they might feel like they're being ignored or like people are looking past them. And their best tool to call attention onto themselves is to just say no to everything. That gives them a little power. That gives them a little control. So maybe that's what's going on. So try to acknowledge them. Give them a space, give them a voice, give them the stage a little bit so that they know that they are heard, that they're visible, that they're part of the team. That's one approach. They normally will be contradicting, like I said, because they feel that they're not adding something they want to add, or they want to subtract from what's there. So give them a role that will allow them to lead or to have a little bit more of control over, whatever it is you're working on. And that's normally, in my experience, that's helpful oftentimes, because they now feel that they're visible, they're being taken into account, they're being considered, and that really helps with the with the constant contradiction of whatever somebody says. Establish a culture in your team that's open dialogue, that people can just safely, politely, constructively air things that could be problematic towards the dynamic of your team, so that even if the person's a constant naysayer and it's always a contradictor, the team itself can work it out. Somebody could say, hey, Joe, Jane, whatever the name might be, what's going on? I see that you're just going against the current every single time. I wonder, is there something that we're missing? Is there something we need to do different? So establish a dynamic that your team is going to feel safe talking amongst themselves and working these things out amongst themselves. The ideal situation is one where you can talk to the person, make sure they're acknowledged. They feel like they're acknowledged, they're seen, they're listened to. And more importantly, that you let your team handle these things on their own. You shouldn't be there for every crisis, for every problem, and to solve every issue. Your team should grow to be able of handling these things. So I would advise that you establish that culture and that maturity in your team that they can talk amongst themselves. You might need to give that person some TLC, right? So maybe even some tender love and care, but in this case, it would be some tough love and care, because maybe they just need to hear you being a little stern and saying, hey, this is not good for the dynamic of the group, for the environment here. You saying no to everything is just not really helping. What's going on? What do we need to address? Is there something that I can help you with? Or just plain old, this is not going to work. So you have to stop. So that's a little bit more of an extreme measure. I've had to take it, and it normally works. Sometimes it won't work. And then you need to make up your own mind as to how you want to handle that. Document it. Make sure that you give the people or the person feedback. Don't spring this on them at performance appraisal time. That's pretty bad practice for you to surprise people. So let them know that this is an issue, that you think this can be improved and should be improved, and help them get better at it. If it doesn't work, then document it so that when you sit down and assess their performance, you can also give them the feedback with a straight face that, hey, we've been trying to work on this and it's just not getting any better, or it is getting better, but it needs to, go quicker, or whatever feedback you might want to give them. But again, don't make it a surprise. They should know where they stand, and they should know that they have something to work with and that you're there to help them. That's the best way you build trust with your team, when you show that you are there to help them, not to judge them. So those are my my thoughts in regards to it. There's always somebody like this. I don't say this in a bad way. It's just life. It'll happen. And you've heard me say this before. You follow me. The best policy is communication and transparency and work things out. Okay? Okay, what are key mistakes to avoid in verbal and written communications that I should be aware of? Well, I love this question. It's really, really important to focus on how you communicate. I would say there's probably 2 or 3. Let me think. So for sure, you got to know who your audience is. Who are you talking to? Who are you writing to? Who are you going to be presenting to? So do you hear that piece? You got to know who your audience is. That'll give you a lot of cues as to the tone, the positioning, how abundant or detailed the information needs to be. So step number 1 is who are you conveying the message to? Step number 2, a mistake that I see people do a lot, or a lot of people make when it comes to communications, is avoid rambling. Many people just get nervous, or they like to hear their voice, or they have an unclear end point with the message that they're trying to convey. And they'll just ramble on and on and on and drone on. And at some point, if you made a point, there will come after some time, if you keep on repeating it, you're just eroding the value of your own point. If you keep on rambling and speaking and repeating yourself, it's just not useful. It's the law of diminishing returns. So be concise, be succinct, be focused, be clear as to what exactly it is that you want to convey and why, and what you want to, get as a reaction to whatever point you're making. So that's the other thing. The third one is, don't think that you need to get it perfect always the right time, at the first time. Many people get tripped up because they're trying to be so perfect that they get nervous, self-aware, and then they ramble on, and then they are unclear, and then they just get all messed up, they forget, they blank. And that's not a place where you want to be. So you will make mistakes. You hear me in these transmissions every week. I mess up all the time. I do more ums than I should, or sometimes I mispronounce stuff, and you're not going to be perfect, or seldom are you going to be perfect. So know that that's the case. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that be something that trips you up. So be concise. Don't ramble on. Know your audience, and know that you're not going to be perfect. Those are the 3 things that I think you need to take care of. You phrased your question in the form of the 3 mistakes, and therefore I'll say this again. First mistake, not knowing your audience. Second mistake, not being concise, clear, and succinct. Third mistake is thinking you're going to be perfect every time right off the bat. You won't. And it's okay. We're all human. Everybody's going to understand that. Maybe a fourth that I would add would be prepared. What are you trying to say? What's the message? What do you want your audience to do in reaction to your message? Give them a call to action. What do you need them to do? So be clear about that piece. I think that would probably be another one, is what do you want to achieve with your communication? So anyway, I hope that's helpful. And I like that question. That's an important one. They say that no thought is complete unless you can articulate it clearly. That's important in written communication, in verbal communication, even in nonverbal communication. Think your stuff through, and then you will be in a much better position to be concise, to be clear, to know how to tailor it to your audience, and not to ramble on. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Can you give me advice on how to get a response from my manager about my career roadmap? I've asked multiple times. Yeah, that happens. I've seen it, my friend. I've seen it all in 34 plus years. And sometimes managers are unresponsive. Try to understand why. It could be that they're nervous about the fact that they might not have a clear idea of what your career roadmap looks like, of what next steps might be for you. And they don't want to admit it, or they have a hard time admitting the fact that they don't know, and they are embarrassed to let you know that they don't know. So make it so that they know that it's okay. Even if they don't have an answer, they need to hear from you that you really want to hear that. And you could say something polite, constructive, in a positive way, along the lines of, hey, remember that I asked you last month, last week, yesterday, and maybe, one other time. So I've asked you a couple of times, whenever you get a chance, I'd love to talk about what my career might look like. Even if you don't have an answer, I'd like to sort of make sure that we have a dialogue so that you know what my interests are, and then you have material to work with as my boss. So that'll give them an easy out and an off-ramp in case they're not prepared and they know that it's safe. Make an appointment. Don't surprise them with the question, right? So don't just walk into their space and say, hey, what's my career going to look like? Because the first thing that's going to happen is people are going to be upset that you sprung a surprise on them. And then secondly, they might not be prepared. So give them the courtesy of advance notice. Let them prepare. Let them help you make that a quality conversation. And the best way to do that is just schedule so that everybody's prepared for that conversation. You yourself need to know what you want to do, what you would not be willing to do. So when you have that discussion, you can also inform their thought process with your own personal preferences. So that would be my approach to that. If it's not working, then you might want to also schedule some time and give your manager some TLC, tough love. So, hey, Joe, hey, Jane, I've been chasing you around with this and I really feel bad that I need to chase you up again, but this is important for me. I want to know what my career might look like in the future. Even if you don't know, let's have a discussion. It's important. It's important for me. And I would really appreciate it if you help me think through my career options. That could be a nice positioning that doesn't sound threatening for them. So the most important thing here is don't let them off the hook. It's their job to give you clarity as to where your career is going, how to be better, how to improve. Thank you for that question. That was a good one. Let's go to the next one. And this is the final question. We're coming up to the bottom of the hour. How do I define my what and why? I need clarity before moving forward. I don't have more information about what moving forward means to you. So maybe you're going to go to a different assignment or a different company, or obviously you're going to go through some change, or you're facing some change and you want to be prepared for that. Well, I think that this is a crucial question you're asking. Defining your what and why is probably the first question you need to answer for yourself. Defining your what and why is probably the first two questions that you have to answer for yourself. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? More importantly, why do you want to accomplish that? Why is that meaningful to you? Knowing the answer to these two things will make it possible for you to sustain any type of effort over any amount of time. If you are focused on something that inspires you, that you want to do, and you're clear about why you want to do that, you understand what drives you, then you're going to be able to sustain a high amount of effort, high degree of effort through a long period of time. Certainly more so than if you're just doing something that doesn't really fill your cells. So it's super important. I might have shared this before, but I had a couple of clients. One was a person who wanted to become a CFO, and he was very, very clear as to what he wanted to become, a CFO, and why he wanted to become that. He likes to feel the pulse of the company. He wants to be in a position that makes the decisions. That's part of those big conversations. Great. He always knew this from early on. Super smart person. He got to CFO. Right now, he's the CFO of a Fortune 500 corporation, big consumer company, consumer goods company, and I'm super proud of him, by the way. And so that's one example. He had a very clear what and why. Another person, and again, I might have said this in other sessions, very successful consultant, very close to making partner in one of the big consulting firms, but she just was not feeling fulfilled, and she didn't want to do that. She was not feeling like she was making a contribution to the well-being of people who are not fortunate enough, like some of us, that we got to go to school, we got to have good jobs, and some less fortunate people. She wanted to go and spend time working and helping with them. So she quit her consulting job after finding her what, which is, I want to go and work in an NGO back in India. This is where she's from. And why? Because I want to give back. She was from a humble, origin, and in her region of India, there's a lot of people who are either going through, harsh times, there's poverty, or who want to get an education and can't. And so she went back, and in order to get back, she's now working in an NGO. She's heading an NGO, and she's happy as a clam. She found her what, and she found her why. So I have a tool, and I'm going to link it down here in the description of the video eventually when I'm done with this live session. But there's 3 questions that I recommend that you answer. So in order to find your what and your why, think of the 3 following questions. What impact do you want to have? Second question, what experiences would you like to have? And third question, what gives you happiness? So you have to understand what impact do you want to have. Using the example that I just gave you of this client that I had, she wanted to have a clear impact on the lives of many people who could probably have a much brighter future than they would without her intervention. She wanted to impact the lives of many who would otherwise not be fortunate enough to get a good education. So she had that clear. Experiences. She wanted to be, it happened. She wanted to go through the experience or get the experience of working with people who were less fortunate and seeing their eyes light up when they started to receive that much needed, much desired education. And what gives her happiness? Well, that helping others. In my own case, what impact do I want to make? I want to impact as many lives as I can of people who want to grow and can't. This is why I always open up with what I do in VSharp and how I want to help you get promoted, or whoever needs getting promoted and can't. I want to make an impact in helping others get as far as they want to get, because they can. The experience that I want to have is interact with as many interesting people as I can in doing that. I'm learning from everybody. I learn from all of you. I learn every time I help a client. To me, that's important. It also gives me time to be with my family more than I was able to do before when I was a CFO. And what gives me happiness is helping others, helping them grow. I just gave you an example of my old team member who's now a CFO, and this person that I helped go to India. And that gives me happiness, helping others, helping them achieve their objectives. So figure out these 3 things and write in a piece of paper at least 3 things and that you enjoy, that you think are important, and answer these 3 things, right? So try to say, okay, what impact does this allow me to make? What experiences is this going to give me? And how is that going to give me happiness or not? That would be my advice. And with that, my friend, we're at the bottom of the hour. We've run out of time, and I think it was almost kind of perfect. Nothing left for me to say. Let me try that again. Nothing left but for me to say goodbye. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was useful, this added value. You know where to find me, and you're going to find all of my social media links in the description. If there's any question, anything you want me to talk about, let me know, and we can have that discussion in the future. And don't forget to get your free online course on executive presence. It's also going to be linked below. And I'll see you next week. Enjoy the week. I hope that wherever you are, it's sunny and warm and fantastic. And be successful. Remember, be better, be smart, and be sharp. I'll see you soon. Take it easy. Bye.